Many countries are slowing their EV rollout, and why? It's crazy, with looming bans coming up in 2035, some even sooner, the rest a little bit later. Why would you want to go so slow? Well, China and their various companies are not going slow, and not only are they going fast and making big sales, but they're also testing vehicle to grid on a big scale. That's what we're going to chat about. I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Asa. So Herbert is joining me today, as he so often does, because that's how I get brighter. And if you guys want to get brighter too, keep watching and subscribe, but also head over to Herbert's channel and subscribe there as well, because he does some pretty great work, and I appreciate having you on, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I appreciate the introduction. I'm very excited about this topic, especially the vehicle to grid one. I can't wait to get to that topic. I think it's brilliant. And there's some things that the Chinese government, when they make the mind up, they can make happen. So,
yeah. So let's just jump into it, I suppose. Now, this, apologies for the bizarre formatting on this, but it is a translated page.
Yeah.
China Passenger Car Association, new energy passenger car market retail sales in August reached 1 million units, up 43% year on year. And that includes plug-in hybrids and I guess also technically hydrogen, though I don't think there are any hydrogen cars. It's all the new energy vehicles. Conventional fuel vehicle retail sales were 870,000 units, down 28%. So what's going on in China?
Yeah, we just talked about this in one of the other shows, didn't we? I mean, it's like the very first time that we saw gas cars just absolutely plummet, right? Hybrids and gas cars are just gone. They're just falling off the cliff. Meantime, you've got new electric vehicles going up. You told me, you're the one that taught me all this, dude. You used to live in China. The incentives, the disincentives that Chinese government has done, as we said, when they want to do something, they make it happen. They really penalize you if you don't switch. They incentivize you to do the right thing, buy the electric vehicles. And then something that I want to dive deeper, and I've been repeating a few times, is that China is actually paying you for junkers. So if you have a gas car, they'll pay you to get it off the grid. This is like a full program that they're doing to make something happen.
Well, let's look at BYD, famously the largest of the Chinese domestic brands. This is pretty exciting stuff if you look at this chart. And we are seeing BYD has raised its sales target to 4 million units, Morgan Stanley analyst said in a research note, citing comments from the company's management. And these are big numbers, man. Now, this big dip, I'm not sure what happened.
Oh, well, but it's almost all hybrids. That's the problem, right? The mix here, we're talking about new electric vehicles, which includes hybrids and plug-in or battery electric vehicles. And the battery electric vehicles is actually softening while it's their hybrids that they're leaning on to. So it's kind of it's like good news, bad news. They're increasing sales, but they're pushing their hybrids.
And that's true. BEV sales have been weak while plug-in hybrids have been growing strongly.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that has to do with a lack of availability of home charging. But the problem with hybrids becomes a lot of people never plug them in, and they do get better gas mileage than a regular gas car because the regen is now doing some work. But come on, guys, retail sales of BEVs were still over half of the NEVs sold, up 18% year on year, 20.8% from July. And in BYD, there's a similar scenario, 222,000 plug-in hybrids, which is up 73% year on year, and only 148,000 electric cars, pure electric.
Yeah. So here's what's going to happen to BYD. You're going to see this hit their financials. When you're selling more hybrids, you're not making money. You're taking two drivetrains and stuffing it together. What's happened is they've convinced the market, the consumers out there, that this is electric cars, right? It's got a battery in it. It's electric. You got the best of both worlds. And then they think it is. But then, and that's why they're kind of like the halo effect of buying electric vehicles, and specifically China. They want to buy electric vehicles, and they're being fooled. That's what's going to happen here in the US. And it really doesn't add much to it at all, but it just increases. Can you imagine more parts than a gas car? It's already terrible for service and problems down the road. this is just the worst of both worlds.
It really is, because there are great pictures online you can find of the difference between how many parts go into a battery vehicle versus a gasoline drivetrain. And the visual is very stunning because there are so many parts. There's 1,000 times as many parts in the drivetrain. And then you make it a hybrid. And now guess what? You've got a bunch of batteries and a bunch of pistons and sleeves and lifters and rods and all that. And it becomes ridiculous. But if you like fire, maybe a hybrid is for you. They are famously the flamiest of all drivetrains.
Wonder why.
Yeah, it's so complicated, but anything that improves efficiency, I guess I applaud. I think a hybrid is a bit of a half measure. I think it is for many, it is a gateway drug that gets you to the battery electric vehicle. I know a lot of people who are guests on the show who started with a hybrid, loved it, and then never went back to a hybrid because, I mean, I just love the battery part of it. So there aren't enough batteries today to go 100%. So I guess, I mean, I'm of two minds about it, obviously.
I see. All right. I'm absolutely not. I think it's a complete, it's, obviously Toyota has announced that they're going to go all hybrid, or they're not going to do electric vehicles. That's what they announced. We don't know what they're actually going to end up doing, but it's a way to just hide and fool the consumers. What I think this is, and it's a complete. They add a tiny little battery and they call it a battery electric vehicle, and it's not. They do get take advantage of the incentives typically, especially here in the U.S. But it's worse for the consumers. What I think.
It is pretty ridiculous, and it is unfortunate. Our last story on this one, and it's the most exciting, is about a vehicle-to-grid test. But before I mention that, I'm going to mention that this weekend is the Test Drive and Info Expo at the Daimler Truck headquarters in Portland, where I will be speaking along with a number of others. We've got this Sunday. Come on out. And we've got this many presentations, 8 presentations over 4 hours. It's going to be a busy schedule with a whole lot of fun to be had. Join us, won't you all?
Love it. So you got 2 presentations there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Brian. Yeah. I love helping out in the community, and this is my idea of fun. So we have got this story here. China seeks to harness EV fleet to ease strain on the power grid. Now, this is a big idea that we've been talking about for years, and we love to see it actually come to fruition. China's Economic Planning Agency is setting up a nationwide test of vehicle-to-grid charging to see if the country's massive fleet of EVs can be used to smooth out the peaks and troughs in electricity supply and demand. So each province will nominate one city to set up a V2G system so the cars can backfeed like a massive network of microgrid, they're of having their own micro power plant, backup system. Because if you think of how many vehicles there are on the road, and every one of them has a pretty substantial battery, if you were to just take 10-15% of that battery's capacity and allow it to backfeed to the grid, maybe it would work. Thoughts on this, Herbert?
Well, first of all, it's brilliant, right? So here you got the Chinese government going to support that they're going all in on electric vehicles. And then they realize that power is going to be one of the biggest issues. And so how do you get more power, stabilization of the power grid? Well, you've got batteries in so many people's homes, and they're driving around. And so vehicle to grid is connecting your battery in your car to the grid, allowing storage of electricity during the peak hours, and then using it when you need to later. But I don't know how they do it, because are all electric vehicles in China have the capability to do vehicle to grid? Or is the government going to know retrofits for those who don't? How does that work?
So the market moves quickly enough that you wouldn't need retrofits. You just put them on the new ones and they would get out there quick enough that it would work. Are they already on it? I don't know which vehicles have it. 2 years ago, I asked Sandy Monroe at an interview in Florida, Is it possible that all the Model 3s and Ys that have been sold lately have bidirectional charging and could be used vehicle to grid? And he said, nope, there's a bidirectional chip that they would need. It would add about $50 to the car, and they don't have it. I know, I've torn them down. So it's not like every vehicle out there could just do this, but the new vehicles could. And especially with China, most cars there are sold with LFP batteries, which have a fantastic lifespan, which would allow them to cycle more times than the NMC chemistry that's more prevalent in the US and Europe. So this could be a real winning solution. And if they put any kind of monetary incentive on it, even if it's a penny a kilowatt, buyers will get an additional discount over the life of their vehicle just because it's plugged in. So that creates some opportunities that are new and exciting. So with that said,
the problem. So I know that all the Cybertrucks have bidirectional, and they can do vehicle grade, but you also need to have the power sharing.
The gateway,
the gateway in the wall, and I think that's about $1,000 or something like that. So, it's a good test, but it's something that they'll need to really push hard for incentives, for implementation.
That's a very good point. It's China; they would make it happen. So that's a little benefit you get when there's central planning and it all's on the same
nationwide pilot, though, right? Is what we need to be doing here as well.
Now, I had this theory that in India, they should be doing this. That Tesla should sell a compact with an LFP battery, enable vehicle to grid for peak shaving, trough loading, and all that. And I had an opportunity over the weekend to speak with two different people who are from India. And I shared this theory with them. And what I've learned is that the problem is, even if the car is $20,000, $25,000, that's still an expensive car for most people in India. And the places that need that kind of grid supplement are the places where people can't afford cars of any kind, let alone one that costs more than $5,000.
Right.
So my theory didn't hold up as well as I had hoped. So unfortunate, but a reality. You guys in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it, won't you? I won't know until you do if you will or not, but let me find out. I would love to be pleasantly surprised by some comments. Everybody else, like, subscribe, do all of those amazing things that you do so well. And if you get an opportunity, of course, to come out and join me on Sunday, I would be delighted. I often give out little prizes for those who survive through to the end of my presentation. It's a very cheap way to bribe my audience to not walk out. So everybody else, like, subscribe, do what you do, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on Sunday in Portland.